Hey, this is Stef, and welcome to the Together Moving Forward podcast. Season 2. Hello, everyone. I'm Stef Vachon, and I'm a human being. Again, welcome to the Together Moving Forward podcast, finally loving and respecting ourselves. This is a podcast for the 2S LGBTQI+ community, along with our friends, allies, and all human beings. Yay! This is season 2, and I'm so excited to be back and with our first episode. Season 2 will be a shorter one with 6 episodes. This summer, I need to spend some time with my little family and enjoy summer here in Montreal, as it is already so short. To start, I need to say that I'm not a psychologist, a specialist, or someone with a college degree. I'm just a regular guy here to share with all of you and support each other. I won't tell anyone how to do things. Instead, I'll share my journey and we will all share our journeys together. We'll learn from each other how to move forward. For the first episode, I was going to have a guest, and I've changed my mind at the last minute. I have decided I wanted to have a chat with all of you and doing kind of a recap of season 1 on what it brought to me and where I am today in my personal growth and with this project of starting this podcast. I have listened to each episode of season 1 many times. I like to see how it started and where this is going as we are moving forward. I have to say that I'm so proud of each episode and so thankful for each guest who participated in season 1. I realize how each episode is so different from others, but they all bring so much on different aspects. Each of you came with generosity to share part of your story to help us all identify ourselves within our community, and I'm so thankful for that. I want to remind everyone what this podcast is all about and why I'm doing this. I want you guys to think of a big, huge support group where we can all support each other and learn from each other. I want to be a place where we can all identify ourselves with each other's stories. I want this space to be a place where we feel 100% free to be ourselves, where we share who we are. I want this place to be a source of inspiration for all of us. For a lot of us who can't be out yet, who are questioning themselves, who are not safe in their environment, families, surrounding, etc. I want this space to be a place where we finally feel like we are not alone, that there's nothing wrong with us, that we are so many of us, that we all connect from wherever in the world we are. By listening to all my guests from season 1, I keep learning about myself. It makes me realize that we are all connected by what we had and have to go through in our past and still each day. Being here with all of you helps me feel better about myself, who I am as a human being. It makes me realize even more the shame and guilt I carried for way too long because of others and for no reason. Each guest made me reflect on my own journey and made me ask myself more questions about where I am going with my life, where I want to go, and who I want to be for myself, my family, around me, and even more now for my community. I've said it in some episodes of season 1. Doing this podcast, not knowing what to do at all at first, learning how to do this was pretty scary. There were many days where I kept judging myself and thinking, what am I doing and why am I doing this? After season 1, it is much clearer. If it is helping me grow, making me feel even more a part of my community, and making me realize so much more the impact the abuse had on my whole life, then it must help others, right? This feels like the last puzzle pieces that were missing in my healing process. So if it's helping me grow, I want to share it with you. And I really hope this will help as many people around the world feel the same as I do right now. And by sharing this podcast, we will help others from our community find the strength to embrace who they truly are. This is the beauty of our community coming together. supporting each other, elevate each other. Wherever you are in the world, we all connect because we all understand each other. On the other hand, I think a lot of us and people around us are scared to be identified in our society within the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. Many of us are scared for their jobs, their family's reaction, their friends. For too many of us, it is a safety issue, a life threatening issue. Many of our friends and allies who are not part of our community just fear being identified with the 2S LGBTQIA plus acronym. I know because I see it with my surrounding and even members of my community close to me by doing this podcast with the lack of acknowledgement and support from them. I am being ghosted. I have to say that at first I was taking it personally, but with hindsight, asking questions to others and reflecting on myself, I can relate to it and understand more. I spent most of my life in fear of the reactions of others about being and showing who I truly am, who I am as a human being. But no more. Making this podcast helps me even more to embrace and show who I truly am and show my support to my community. This is why we need to unite even more today, more than ever. We need to stand up together, support each other, help each other, and move forward. Imagine if we all did. By sharing this podcast and the episodes, you never know. You might even save someone's life. This is all about coming together for each other, no matter where we are from in the world. Minjun was my first guest of season 1. And what a first guest! In this episode, Minjun shared his journey of embracing his uniqueness, discussing the challenges he faced while coming out, particularly in a traditional Asian household. Here are two short clips from what Minjun had to say.
I feel like I was really tiptoeing on eggshells. I feel like any wrong move, any wrong act, any wrong speech, any wrong anything, right? I feel like I would have been disowned at that point. It was very stressful. I mean, I was a kid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any kid should be going through that. No, certainly not in 2025. It wasn't healthy. I mean, I didn't know at that point what depression was, but I'm pretty sure I was a depressed kid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my mom would snap these really snarky remarks like, "Oh, the way you're dressing is very faggot." Um,
Mm-hmm.
the clothes I was wearing from head to toe had to be a certain way. It had to be something she would buy, something that she likes. So whatever I like didn't matter at that point.
Who inspires you or what inspires you today?
I would say Wicked. Cried a lot during that movie. There's a lot of messages from the music in the movie itself. I was a very big fan of Wicked ever since I was young. Recently, I went to watch Wicked in the theaters, and the message that was in the song, specifically Defying Gravity, stuck to me a lot because it's like the message behind it means if you're so different, why are you so scared of defying the norm?
Mm.
And I really loved it. And also the way Elphaba, which is Cynthia, essentially the actress, sang it was so emotional, very, very raw. I would say right now, who inspires me the most would be Cynthia. Ever since that movie, I just replay that song a lot in my head.
If you haven't watched it yet, just know that there is a great conclusion, and I'm so proud of it. Yes, sometimes people can change and support you in the end. It is possible. Now for the Wicked movie. Okay, at this time of the episode, I hadn't seen it yet, and I already wanted for a long time. But with our 8-year-old son, the latest movie I've seen are Sonic and Transformers. So the weekend after this interview, We all went to the theater and watched Wicked. Now, let me tell you what happened at the end when I heard the song Defying Gravity. This was pretty intense, and the movie ended, and I could not stop crying. The movie is done. My husband and my son are walking down the stairs, and then they see me from down there, and they turn around and looked at me, and they're like, "Come on!" And I'm just like, I mean, I lost it. I'm bawling, and it's really intense and loud. So my son comes back up. He puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "It's okay, Daddy. It's okay." And then, so I'm telling him, I'm not sad. I think this is just so wonderful. This song was so powerful and amazing. Thank you, Minjun. My second guest was Laura, a 68 years old lesbian from New York City. From discovering her identity as a lesbian at a time when it was hard to be out and accepted, Laura opened up about the pivotal moments that shaped her path. I could have listened to Laura for hours, even days. She'll be back, don't worry. It was really hard for me to choose which clips to highlight today because there were so many great moments in the interview that I loved. But here we go. We'll start with these two.
I have a collection of in-your-face queer t-shirts, and I wear them for a number of reasons. Over the last few years, I have discovered that if I wear a t-shirt like this on a trip to a museum or a shop or the zoo, young queer people come out of the crowd and run up to me and say, "I love your t-shirt. I'm gay too. Can I hug you?"
Wow. Wow.
And so I've realized that this is how I can present as a safe human for young people who desperately need to see me. May I tell you what I did last night?
Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
I went to a ballet class. Most figure skaters have ballet experience. I really don't. But I went to a queer ballet class, a beginning ballet class.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
And here was this space where a wide range of body types and ages, all kinds of genderqueer people were moving together and encouraged to make eye contact and reach out to each other. I'm hooked. I'm going back every week.
Laura, I don't have a queer in your face t-shirt yet, but I've definitely changed my attitude in public. What you shared in this episode really helped me feel more comfortable in public with my son and my husband. Thank you so much, Laura. Also, for sure, when I go visit you in New York City, we are going to that queer ballet class together. That would be so amazing. Now, here are other short clips from the interview that I really needed to hear.
Divorcing one's birth family is frowned upon in society.
Mm-hmm.
We are warned that if we do something like that, we'll suffer mental and possibly physical tragedies. Sometimes it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Sometimes these people who say they love you don't let you be who you are and don't respect you for who you are. If right now I give permission to a couple of young people who never thought that they could survive severing toxic ties for whatever reason the ties are toxic, then I'm having a really good day.
Yeah.
This podcast is so important because it's focusing on what we need to do to join together in our beautiful, diverse, queer community to support each other and give each other hope and happiness.
Yeah, Laura, you said it perfectly. And this is exactly why I started this podcast. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you back for another episode. And if you're wondering why she's wearing a few different outfits, you'll have to watch the full episode. Episode 4 was Messy Margaret, a Toronto based drag artist, performer, and producer. From discovering drag in 2020 to building her own production company, Missy shared her journey of self acceptance, resilience, and creating a platform for queer representation. Here are short clips from Missy that really got my attention.
One story I like to tell was, I think it was like grade 7. I had stopped wanting to go to school, and my mom, like, I would leave school sometimes and go home because I lived just across the street because it was so bad. And my mom was getting frustrated because she knew that I was being bullied and it was affecting me. And so she went into the school and spoke with like the principal, and then they set me up with the school guidance counselor, who at first was very helpful and really made me feel that he understood that what they were doing to me was damaging. And so we had agreed, there were 2 like main bullies, and the guidance counselor and I agreed to bring both of them in separately and have a conversation around it. And we did. And that again made a change. Like, they saw what they were doing. But as soon as we were done doing that, once we had confronted like these bullies and rectified that part of the situation, the guidance counselor then said to me, okay, so now that we've dealt with that, now I just want to show you what you do, like mannerisms and whatnot, that
No.
is the impression that.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so even then, even at like 12 or 13 years old, like I felt so like dead inside almost, because it's like you're putting that on me. You're making it my fault now. So you're telling me that if I change my mannerisms and conform to what they think is the right behavior of a young boy, then the bullying will stop. So basically, yeah, stop asking for it is what that message was. And he did. He mirrored back mannerisms that I would do to kind of help coach me. You know what I mean? To carry as a message is that if there is a young queer kid out there watching this, watching one of my TikTok videos, maybe their parents brought them to one of the shows when they were visiting Toronto, I want them to see through me that there is a place for them in this world at some point. I had a little boy come up to me at a drag story time with his mom, and the little boy said, when I grow up, I want to be a drag queen. And I thought that was so amazing to hear, because this little boy now knows that that's possible for him. You know what I mean? We can be a beacon of hope for those people, not even just kids, but just people in general who feel lost or isolated or that they don't belong. Or especially right now, especially if you were a trans person, there are so many beautiful trans voices and trans artists that are using their platforms to really step forward and fight for this. And I hope that they're being able to see them, to know that, okay, I can get out of this. Things will get better. There are people that are fighting for our rights.
After listening to the first clip, we understand exactly why we need more education about our community in every aspect of society. It's the only way to stop this kind of behavior, and that's why we need to speak up and stand up for ourselves and others. The second segment warms my heart. with that little boy who now knows there's a place for him in this world with the support of our community. Well done and great job, Messi. Episode 5 was Violet Lapointe, a trans woman, skateboarder, and community leader who is deeply involved in creating safe space and inclusive spaces for LGBTQ plus individuals. In these clips, you'll see why community is so important to us and the amazing work Violet is doing. There's also some really great advice about learning to be your true self.
I would say community has played a huge role in my life. Like, I think that without without queer community, I would just, I don't know where I would be. I might not be alive. I, when I came out, my family was not very supportive. And so now they're more supportive, but like in the past, they weren't very supportive. And so I moved out at 17, right?
Mhm.
And so like, I lived on people's couches. I was fed by my friends. I had emotional support from them, and also like they were the queer community are the people who like were able to answer the questions I had for a very long time. I think that I have an important role in like the queer skateboarding community of Montreal, and also just like women's skateboarding of Montreal, because like I run like a queer skate collective, and that's like we put on events so that people have access, like affordable access, safe spaces in skateboarding, right? And like I think that I have an important community role in that, right? Like I make skateboarding accessible for people in a way that it wouldn't inherently be accessible to them. I found a thing that I'm good at. I found a thing that I can see the direct impact it has on people, right? And that makes me feel good. Like I like what I do. Part of it I like it because it's skateboarding or whatever, but mostly I like it because it's like it's good for people. Like I was always going to have a community oriented role, but this gave me my community to work with, and that's an amazing feeling. Like I found like my calling for now, right?
Yeah.
If you are even beginning to think this, right? I think that's worth exploring. And like there are ways to explore that are just small at first. And like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to like dive straight in and tell your whole family, tell everyone. There are ways to just be like, okay, well, like the way I started my transition was I would go online and I would talk to strangers and I would be like, yeah, I'm a girl. And like those small things really helped me to see how I felt about being perceived in those ways. It's going to be a lot of advocating for yourself, but it's worth it. Like it's absolutely worth it. Parts of it are harder than others, but it's genuinely so worth it because like, what else is hard? Like is living in a way that is not authentic to yourself. You could do that your whole life if you wanted to, but you could also go through a difficult transition period and then a much easier version of your life. Because my life is easier now. Like as much as there's adversity and things like that, like my life is better and easier now that I have transitioned because I like myself. Like I can build upon myself because I like this base part of my identity and I am authentic to myself in that. And so everything that I have built has been a result of me transitioning.
Thank you so much, Violet. Your story is powerful, inspiring, and a true testament of the strength of community. My next guest was figure skating Olympic medalist, world champion, musician, and composer Eric Radford. Okay, here's the story about Eric. So Eric was in town in Montreal just for a few days in between TV shows and ice shows around the world. So I asked him if he would be willing to skate with me, have a little skating session. And he said yes right away. So I thought, okay, we'll meet at the ice rink and then do our skating session together, do some videotaping, and then do the interview in the stands. So I had checked the microphones and I thought everything was working perfectly. So we did the whole interview in the stands and then we said goodbye. So I get in the car and I'm all excited. I start listening to the interview on my phone and oh my God, I realized the sound did not work properly. I don't know what to say. I just felt sick in my stomach. So I got home, tried to make it work in the middle of the night for I don't know how many hours, and it was horrible. I just wanted to throw up. I just felt so horrible. So I sent a message to Eric. So the next morning he just answered back, "Oh, I'm sorry it didn't work out, but let's do it again. I'm fine with it. I'm okay, no problem." And I was like, "Oh my God, what a guy. Like, what an incredible guy." I was just like so happy. So we did the interview again online just before he took his flight back to Australia. I think he was going for a night show. And I was just so thankful. And what a great sport. Like, what an incredible guy. So let's watch a short clip of the challenges he had to face as a young boy. And here's some of his personal thoughts that I could not agree more with.
You know, I dealt with a lot of bullying, a lot of teasing, a lot of name calling, some physical bullying as well. And, you know, when I look back at it, there's one aspect of it that I think that, you know, made me stronger because I was resilient and I sort of persevered through it. But there's another aspect of it that when I look back and more recently, I've realized it had a lasting impact, almost kind of like a trauma. And was, you know, something that I've had to work through more recently. But I do think that, you know, things have changed. And if in today's day and age and social climate, and I would say sort of raised awareness to the LGBTQ plus community, that I probably wouldn't have dealt with as many of those challenges as I did back in, you know, when I was a kid. I see these things pop up on Instagram once in a while where, you know, when people are at the end of their lives, what their most common regrets are. And the biggest one is, I wish I had the courage to live my life the way I truly wanted to. And at this point in my life, it's something I observe a lot and I see in other people is afraid to take that leap, afraid to pursue their art, afraid to go and ask that person that they really like, you know, for a date. And I think that we all live with this false sense that we're going to live forever. And I think that it's just so important to do what you want when you like now, because you don't know if you have tomorrow. And I know it sounds cliche and it even sounds maybe like kind of hippie-ish or something, but it has really changed it's changed the way I feel daily by kind of living that way. And I've seen people make those changes and how it lights them up and how it changes their life. So I guess for the listeners, I just want to spread that message too, you know, because I think that it has the potential just to really make one's life richer, more full, and happier.
Eric, thank you so much for being such a generous and kind-hearted person. It was truly a privilege to have you on the podcast and to share a part of your own journey. And I have to say that my side-by-side double jump with you on the ice had to be one of the biggest highlights of this season. Next, we had Adrian Trent from the Federation of Gay Games. We talked about the mission of the Gay Games, their role in fostering inclusivity, and the exciting plans for the next edition in Valencia, Spain, 2026. But first, I reunited for the first time in over 30 years with Charles Sinek, a former Olympic ice dancer who stepped in as my partner at the last minute at the New York Gay Games in 1994. Together, we won the gold medal as part of the first ever same-sex couple competition in figure skating. Here are 2 short clips from that episode, but you really have to watch the whole thing to hear the full story behind it and what the gay games did for me personally. To this day, it still gets me emotional just talking about it. And I hope it inspires you to participate in the next one in 2026. I was chatting with Lois Elfman on social media.
Mhm.
She's the one that wrote an article about you performing at the Gay Games in their skating magazine, which is the official publication of US figure skating. Now, she wrote me something and I want to read it to you, and then we'll talk about it. So here what she wrote. So Charles has credited the Gay Games experience stepping in the last moment and winning with reigniting his competitive desire. The following year, he teamed up with Beata Handra. Did I say right?
Beata Handra, yes.
Beata Handra, to whom he's been married for 27 years. They got the second ice dance spot to the 2002 Olympic team and competed at the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. If he hadn't had the competitive performance at the Gay Games, he probably would have continued on with his coaching career and never come back to competition and met his wife. And that's before I reached out to you. When I read that, I was like, wow. So really, am I a little bit of the reason why you went to the Olympics and you met your wife?
So you're a big part of the reason.
Wow.
Had I not had that experience, Lois is right. I would have just stayed on as a coach and continued that way. I really don't think that I would have thought about reinstating had it not been for that experience in '94 at the Gay Games.
See, like you never know, huh? You never know, like something doesn't go your way and then something else can happen and make it such an incredible and special thing in your life, So that makes it even so much more special to me.
They borrowed skates from another competitor. They borrowed the costumes from 2 of the other women skaters, correct? And they went on to win the gold medal in the men's compulsory dance level 4. Unbelievable! Please welcome from Team Edmonton, Stef Vachon, and the skating coach from Boston, Charles Sinek. Wow!
The Gay Games is known as a place to change people's lives. And when you're meeting 10 to 12,000 different athletes from around the world, anything's possible. And I think it's fair to say that over the course of time, many relationships, friendships have grown through the Gay Games as a way of developing new relationships and new friendships. And I think it's really quite an amazing event for that to happen. And to be part of that is even more special, especially where you may have met someone from a different culture, different background, totally different experience to you, but there's some kind of connection that you just can't put your finger on, but it's because of the Gay Games exists, that's why it happens, and that's the magic of it. The whole of Valencia will be flooded for those 12 days of competition with 36 sports and multiple other events, including culture and pride bands and concerts and exhibitions. So it's a whole gamut of activities. Yes, sport is essentially one thing everyone knows about, but the culture is just as important as well. And I know Valencia is an amazing city. People will love it. So we're looking forward to have Valencia as the hosts our first time in Spain.
Episode 8 was Ari Isaac. a driven queer entrepreneur from Toronto, and a passionate advocate for self discovery. Here's a medley of short clips that I found really helpful in my own life, especially about setting my own goals and acting on them.
Whenever I feel discomfort in my body and like it's like an overwhelming sense of um like not being happy to wake up in the morning, or like not just feeling like that lethargy and feeling that sense of being trapped, that feels like death to me. So I'm very much a person of like, okay, if I feel like this, it's probably not going to change. And what do I have in my power? I have my own power to sort of change the situation, and I'll be able to figure it out as I go. I think that this whole life is just a practice in following your intuition. And as you said, letting go is one of the biggest life hacks that
Yeah.
I've I've discovered. And I think that we constantly have to teach ourselves that lesson, or like it needs to be repeated in order for it to become like that muscle memory. Those things that make you feel the most scared, I think, are the the portals to like your like personal power, I think, because it's an important thing to you that you would feel that sense of nervousness and anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's only by like facing it head on is it going to give you the opportunity to, either discover that talent, or just to see that where the starting point is. And once you cross the threshold, it's like, oh, I was scared of doing that, but actually it wasn't that bad. If you don't try and go for something that you've been thinking about and you've had on your mind for a long time, then you only have yourself to blame in a way, right? The overthinking can come from trying to talk yourself out of the thing that you want to do. So it's like, what is
Yeah.
that? What was the initial thought? Was the initial thought like, okay, I really want to pursue this thing, right? Whatever it is. And then the second thought that comes in is like, oh, but what if, like, that's the second thought is trying to talk you out of the original thought. So
Yeah.
whatever the original thought is, that's what you have to do.
This was just a teaser. There's so much more to discover with Ari. I really recommended you watch or rewatch this episode for a big dose of motivation to move forward in every area of your life. Thank you so much, Ari, for those great pieces of advice and sharing them with us. The following episode featured Maria Roman, a leader in transgender social services with the Trans Latina Coalition in Los Angeles. Maria is a dedicated advocate, activist, and community leader. Let's listen to a short part of what she had to say on both her personal thoughts and the incredible work she's doing with the coalition.
And it's a miracle that today I am one of the leaders of one of the largest trans-led organizations in the United States. But that was a really long journey in a society that, throughout my life did not embrace who I was, did not embrace what I represented, did not understand me. And still today we see that there's so many efforts to ensure that people like myself or people who are LGBT are in the sidelines, right? That we're sort of in the sidelines of society. And that's unfortunate, because just like anybody else's son or daughter, I deserve, and everybody who is LGBT deserves the same rights to happiness and to thrive and to go to school and to educate themselves and to be able to contribute back to society. We are building something that had never been built before, right? We are one of the first trans-led organizations, and we have grown incredibly in the last 15 years. We just celebrated 50 years of the inception of this organization. And I wanted to be part of that. I'm inspired every day by both the stories of the people that come to our center, my own journey, and the journey of other men, women, and people who are gender expansive. that come to our organization, and that's what really inspires me. But it's been one of the most rewarding experience to find where my passion is and where I find the work that I'm doing is really changing lives and changing the landscape for trans people more now than ever. I think that the work that we're doing, it's incredible, and especially under the current landscape around the world in the United States. We have to take the power back, right? And we have to take charge in our narratives, because the thing is that they're trying to dehumanize us, make us not human beings. But in reality, we are just like everybody else. We're somebody's daughter, son, brother, sister. We're the people that are shopping at your grocery store. So we're just like everybody else. And I think people forget that we are somebody's child, like we're
Exactly.
not this, we didn't come out of nothing. We're your next door neighbor's kid. We're like the people in your family. And I think the lies of safety for women and girls that is being utilized against particularly trans women around bathroom issues is silly. I've been going to the bathroom, and it's not, we go there to do the same thing everybody else does. I mean,
Yeah, it's just to. I think it's for something else, but it's
yeah,
just to make people want to stay at home and not get
yeah,
out.
to make us all afraid. Well,
Yeah,
you're not gonna
but
do that to me.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. That's what
I
I'm
will
trying to
see you
say.
in your nearest bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Thank you, Maria, and thank you to the coalition for the inspiring work you do every single day. Episode 10 featured Alan Lissik, a novelist and queer activist from Berlin. In this episode, we explored the power of community, the role of resilience in overcoming life's biggest challenges, and how the loss of his partner shaped his journey. Here's what Alan shared that really stood out to me: thoughtful, honest, and deeply inspiring.
So yes, I've been doing pair skating for over 20 years with my friend Johnny. It's incredibly empowering to do something in skating that officially is not allowed. And so we can only pretty much skate in the gay games, and there's a couple other competitions that we managed to skate in. But it's always the shock on people's face when we go out there of who are these guys and what are they doing, is totally amazing and totally wonderful and totally trend setting. Young queer people and the way that young queer people are helping redefine queerness and redefine our identities is absolutely amazing. And I can say from experience, as as the age I am, we have always had this broadness of experience within what we called the gay community or the LGBTQ community at one point. We always have had this full range of experience, but we had different names for it. Again, we don't know how long we're ever going to live. We don't know what's going to happen next.
Mhm.
We don't know what will happen to us. And so how do we live right now? How do we live today? Coming on your show is how I'm living today.
Mhm.
Meeting my friend for coffee when we're done is kind of how I live today, is to do the things that I want to do or are important to do, and not to put them off into a future, not to say one day. I mean, there are things one day I still say I want to do, but if you put everything off in the future, or you say I'm going to wait, or I'm going to wait till this happens, many times that those things don't happen. And let's just say, as a queer community, we can take for granted what we achieve, and we can believe that it's never going to change.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, things always change. I think right now is the time for us to recognize again, and that's why your podcast is so important right now, that we need to pull ourselves and keep pulling ourselves together to work through what the differences, to understand and celebrate the differences, but actually to create strategies and create what are the next steps again. But it always takes lots of concerted work by all of us to make those changes so we can all live in the way that we believe we should be living and deserve to live.
Next, from Buenos Aires, I sat down with Vanessa Lopez, founder of Salimos Jugando, an Argentinian organization that uses football as a tool to empower women, girls, and gender diverse people. Joining her was Maru, who translated our conversation from Spanish to English. As I mentioned in the episode, it was so important to me to speak their language, Spanish, as best as I could, even if it was a challenge and I made a lot of mistakes. For me, this was my way of thanking them for being part of the podcast. I'm so proud of the beautiful work they are doing, creating safe and inclusive spaces through sport and turning it into a powerful tool for education and social transformation. Here are a few clips in both Spanish and English from our conversation.
Así que bueno, eso es un poco la historia resumida, ¿no? De 5 a mucha gente que formó parte, que forma parte, que pasó y que sigue eligiendo Salimos Jugando como ese lugar donde hacer actividad física, donde se siente segura para jugar al fútbol. Así que resumidamente esa es la historia un poco de Salimos Jugando, ¿no?
En inglés ahora.
Perdón. So, Salimos Jugando was born in 2019, kind of as a response to the lack of safe and real spaces where women and gender diverse people could play soccer without being judged or discriminated against. As you know, soccer in Argentina is quite a male sport. It started with a group of only 5 girls who rent a pitch to meet, to play, and to share some time. And over the time, we realized that what seemed like a small thing had an enormous potential. So it really exceeded all the expectations this group of girls had. And all this, through all this year, we were supporting thousands of people who came looking for a safe space to grow, and it ended up becoming a powerful tool also for social transformation, right? So this is how it grew, from a really small group of people to an organization nowadays that promotes leadership, training, and active participation in sports from a gender and LGBT plus perspective. One day after one of these tournaments ended, a trans girl came up to us and in tears, she said, "It's the first time I felt welcome on a soccer field." And so something that for us, it was obvious because we felt it like that, turned out to be a moment that was very powerful. Their body, you can see how it changed, the way they stand on the pitch, not only how they play, but also how they stand. And they come with fear, and they end up leading their teams, organizing events, or even they start thinking, okay, maybe I want to study something related to sports. So it's really nice when we receive messages saying, I don't know if I can play or if whatever, and they end up being part of this. Not only they dare to play, but they also feel part of this. So I think that many people in Salimos Jugando, we find here a space where we can be and we can grow and we can dream. And we understand that these kind of places are really important.
And finally, for the last episode of season 1, I had the pleasure of welcoming Gary, a proud gay father and advocate for minority rights. Gary shared his personal story of navigating identity, embracing fatherhood, and standing up for what truly matters, minority rights. Here are my favorite moments with Gary.
I was on my way out the door. My bags were packed for a business trip, and the phone rang, and it was my partner's older brother. also a gay man with his partner, and had been with his partner for a long time. And they were calling to announce to us that they were adopting a child in China. It was back in the time, and this was kind of the second half of the 90s. You couldn't do it as a couple, but they did it as a single man.
Yeah.
And I can remember standing in the hallway of my apartment at the time with my bags in my hands, and my world flipped. And I had to walk out the door because my taxi was waiting for me downstairs. But all of a sudden, something that I had never thought would ever be possible in my life kind of became a potential reality. I had never really been involved in the LGBTQ community before as a an advocate or a militant until I had kids, and until our first child came to us. And I think one of my thoughts in that initial time was my son, who is Black, is going to have he's going to experience racism, maybe other types of discrimination. And I didn't want there to be an additional layer of discrimination that was linked to homophobia, the fact that he's got two dads.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of just fell into it. I don't think I ever made a decision that I was going to become an advocate. I think, though, that I've gone beyond acceptance. Now I'm proud of the differences, and differences plural in my life. It's not just my sexuality, but it's also the fact that I'm a parent, the fact that I live in a not a biracial, but a triracial family. My husband's Mexican. Our kids are of Haitian descent. All of that kind of pulls together to be something that makes me who I am today. And then, with all the life experiences that I've had, I guess now I look back on that and I think that's what my strength is. And I bring that strength to any life situation that I have. We talked a lot about queer love. And I think that's a part of it too, is coming back to this idea that understanding that you've constructed your life in a way that suits you, that doesn't necessarily suit everybody in society, but that's not important because you surround yourself with your friends, your chosen family, and that's where you go and you source your energy and your strength.
Here we go. This is a wrap up for episode 1 of season 2. I hope it makes you want to check out the episodes you haven't listened to yet, or even rewatch the one you've already seen to discover something new, just like I did. Each guest brought something truly special to this podcast, and I'm really grateful for all of them. My dear friends, it is already time to say au revoir just for now. So please join me next Wednesday with my first guest of season 2. You don't want to miss that. Everybody, share this podcast and spread the good news. By sharing this podcast, you will help someone find the strength to embrace who they truly are. Wherever you are from in the world, we are all connected. Remember, solidarity beats hate. The more we unite, the stronger we become. Because at the end of the day, we are all equally human and we all deserve the same rights. One last thing before I go. Put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. All of us together. I am enough, just as I am. Yeah, I am enough, just as I am. Please subscribe now. Your follow helps me keep this podcast alive and growing for our community. My dear friends, see you next week. Ciao. Subscribe now and share to uplift, empower, and make a real difference in our community.